Hi everybody, Donna from donnasdreamworks.blogspot.com, and it's time to Ready, Set, Go for Christmas. A couple of years ago I made one of these cards, and I keep a sample of what I make and put measurements on it to use it as a guide next time. And this one is a little worse for wear. It's been in a drawer for a few years now. But it's basically one of those crisscross cards or double cross cards or cross front cards. I'm not sure what everybody calls them. This was made a somewhat smaller card, and the mats underneath it brought it up to an A2 card, 5.5 by 4 1/4, and then had an insert in here. I wanted to try it again and make it just a little different. I didn't want to have to double mat the bottom because it was a little too heavy, and I was trying to make something a little bit lighter in weight for mailing. So I've come up with one using, now I'm going to use just plain white cardstock for the base. And it takes one sheet of white cardstock for one card because you have to make 2 cards. So I'm going to cut this now, and yes, I use my cutter upside down. I'm going to cut it at the 5.5, just as if I was making an A2 size card. And we will score it at 4 1/4 and 4 1/4. Okay. Now the next thing you need to do, after you've folded these in half and given them a nice crease, and I'll use my bone folder when I'm finished cutting. So now I have 2 A2 size cards, and I'm going to have them so that the openings face each other, like so. Okay? Now I'm going to take the cutter, and on this card I'm going to cut this side down diagonally, and the way to do that is to line up the top of the card with your crease and the bottom of the card right on the point. So you just have to kind of finagle it around until you've got it that way, and then you're going to cut it off. Okay? And you end up with something like this. Now on this card, it's facing this way. We want to cut this side off. So we're going to do it basically the same way. Put it in your cutter, line up the top of your fold and the point of your card, and cut it off. And that's that cutting. Now these have a few pieces, and if you're going to make a lot of them, the best thing to do is to just get them all the pieces cut out at once, and then you can. It takes no time at all to assemble the card. So this is how it's going to look, and what you're doing is just overlapping the 2 backs. Okay? So we're going to put that together using some ATG. I made this once already today, and I made the entire thing, and I was totally out of frame because I forgot to check it, and I usually do check it before I get started, and I didn't, and that's what happens when you don't. Now I'm going to try to line these up. This hasn't been one of my better line-up days. Okay. So now when it closes like so. Okay? Now the first thing you want to do is to adhere this piece down, and you're going to have a tag inside, so I like to use a white glue for adhering that down, because if you use something like your ATG, it stays sticky, and your tag can get stuck in the pocket, just as if you were making a mini album. Wherever you're going to be putting a tag, you want to put it with wet glue or hot glue, because once it's dry, it's not going to be sticky. Okay, now I took 2 squares of patterned paper, and I made them 4 1/4 by 5.5, just like an A2 size square, and I cut them in half. And so what I have here are 2 different patterns of paper, and I'm going to adhere them down to these 2 little flaps. Okay, let's do that. I kind of like this brown paper. It's obviously not a traditional Christmas color, but it's kind of nice. Makes it a little different. Okay, now the other one is going to be on the outside flap. But what I'm going to do first is just put a little ATG here and adhere that flap down. Okay, there you go. Now we'll put this one on. And I put all the measurements for these papers on the video, so it should be down there somewhere. And we'll put this one right along the bottom of that. There you go, that's pretty. Now for the inside, you need a mat in here, and that's what you're going to use for your sentiment. And I took a piece of brown cardstock and I cut that at 5 1/4 by 4. Now if you're thinking of layering as if you were going to layer an A2 size card, that's it. And then the other layer that's inside is 1/4 inch smaller, or 5 by 3 3/4. And I took this and I put half of it through my Cuttlebug embossing folder, the snowflake folder, leaving the bottom of it unembossed so I could put my sentiment on there easier. So let's adhere these two. I have a sentiment that is Merry Christmas, and it's an Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo stamp. And I have some Hampton's brown ink. It's a dye ink, so it should dry quickly. And we're just going to stamp our sentiment on here. There you go. Very nice. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I punched out a 1-inch circle, and I'm just going to fold it in half, she says, gracefully. If I had scored it first, it would have been easier. And I'm just going to take a little bit of, do I have my glue runner out? Right here. Here we go. Whoa, throwing it on the floor. I'm just going to take a little glue runner and put it on there. And we're going to just put it up at the top, just to remind people that they can pull this out. So that is going to fit thus inside of our card. Okay. Alright, for the front, let's do the front now. I have two mats here again, the brown and the cream. This brown is cut at 2 inches to 4 1/4, same width as the card, and the cream is cut at 1 3/4 to 3 3/4. So we're going to adhere those two together. Hopefully I'm staying in frame for some of this anyway. Okay, now I took my gypsy and I made the word joy, or I did the word joy from the Cricut cartridge, and I did it at 1.59. I used a very heavyweight cardstock. It's almost a lightweight chipboard, so I had to multi-cut it 3 times. Now I did not cut the base layer because I'm going to put stickles in the middle, so it doesn't really make any difference of whether you have the base layer there or not. So we're going to adhere that down to this using some of this, wet glue, and I don't need all that. Well, Donnie, you're making a mess with that glue. just get that off of here because I will sure then the devil put the card right in the middle of it. So now we're going to adhere this to the front of the card, and I'm not using dimensionals because I don't want to create, again, too much lift for mailing purposes. Now when you cut out this joy, you get this little piece out of the middle, and I thought it was just too cute to waste, so I'm going to try it without getting glue all over the mat again. Put a little bit on the back of this and see if we can adhere it. And I think it looks rather nice right up here. Now you have to kind of hold it down just a little bit when you put this on at first because you're putting it on an embossed area, and you have to make sure that the glue sets a little bit. Alright, so that was fairly simple really, and then you can put your any other sentiment again on the inside. We're going to add a little stickles to the snowflake. And this is the icicle stickles. It's really nice. I like it. And then I should put the stickles on last because I always put my hands in the stickles, but I forgot. So I want to go around the outside of this with some white gel. This is a little bit, I think this card to me looks a little more like sophisticated, I guess you might say. And I think I'll put a few right around this little brown tab too. There. So there you go. A very pretty card. Simple to make. The work is all in the preparation, but the Cricut cuts out the joys multiple times really quick. And once you've got the pieces cut, it goes together real quick. Thanks for stopping by Donna's Dreamworks and Ready, Set, Go for Christmas. And stop by again next week. We'll be back again with another Ready, Set, Go. Thank you. Bye-bye.